The mysterious encounter. The salvage vessel Nomad's Fortune drifted through the darkness of uncharted space, its engines humming at minimal power as Captain Nikolai Volkov gazed out the viewport. Debris from an asteroid mining operation floated past, glittering like stars in the ship's external lights. Nikolai ran a hand through his salt and pepper hair, the wrinkles around his eyes deepening as he squinted at a strange reading on his scanner. "Dmitri, are you seeing this?" he called to his engineer, who was buried halfway inside an access panel. Dmitri Orlov, a burly man with a thick beard and perpetually oil-stained hands, extracted himself from the panel and peered at the console. "Radiation signature doesn't match anything in our database, Captain. And it's fluctuating in a pattern that seems deliberate." "Plot an intercept course," Nikolai ordered, straightening his weathered jacket. 20 years of salvage operations in the Outer Rim had taught him that unusual signals often meant valuable finds, or trouble. Sometimes both. As they approached the source, the Nomad's Fortune slowed to a crawl. What they found wasn't mining debris but a ship, or what remained of one. The vessel was unlike anything Nikolai had ever seen, its hull composed of a strange metal that seemed to ripple like liquid despite being solid. Parts of it had been torn away, revealing chambers inside that pulsed with a soft blue light. "Scans show one life sign," reported Zara, their navigation specialist, her dark eyes focused intensely on her readouts. "Faint, but stable." "Boarding party," Nikolai decided. "Dmitri, with me." "Zara, keep the engines hot. If anything looks off, you pull out immediately, understood?" Minutes later, Nikolai and Dmitri floated across the void between ships, tethered to their own vessel by thin carbon fiber lines. Their magnetic boots clicked against the alien hull as they navigated toward a breach large enough to enter. The interior was even stranger than the outside. Corridors curved in ways that seemed to defy conventional architecture, and panels on the walls flickered with symbols that changed as they passed. The air inside was breathable but carried a faint scent like ozone and citrus. "Life sign is ahead," Dmitri murmured, checking his handheld scanner. "Getting stronger." They entered what appeared to be a central chamber. In the middle, suspended in a web of glowing filaments, was a woman, or at least, a being that appeared mostly human. Her skin had a slight iridescent sheen, and her ears tapered to delicate points. Most striking were her eyes, entirely silver, with no visible pupil or iris, yet clearly focused on the newcomers. "Help," she whispered, her voice carrying a melodic quality that seemed to resonate inside Nikolai's head rather than through his ears. Nikolai approached cautiously. "We're here to help. Can you tell us what happened?" "Pursued," she replied, her silver eyes blinking slowly. "Ship damaged. Defense systems dying." Dmitri began examining the filaments holding her. "Some kind of medical suspension, I think. But I'm not sure how to disengage it safely." The woman raised a slender hand, pointing to a panel nearby. "Release sequence. There." After several tense minutes of following her instructions, the filaments retracted, and she dropped gently into Nikolai's arms. She was lighter than she appeared, as if her bones were hollow. "My name is Lyra," she said, steadying herself. "I thank you for your assistance, humans." "You know what we are," Nikolai observed. A slight smile curved her lips. "Your species is notorious in certain regions of space." "Notorious isn't always bad," Dmitri grunted, continuing to scan the chamber for salvageable technology. "Indeed." Lyra took a step and stumbled. Nikolai caught her arm. "My ship cannot be saved," she continued. "I must request passage." Back aboard the Nomad's Fortune, Zara watched their visitor with undisguised fascination as Nikolai explained their salvage operation and their current route back to Junction Station, the nearest inhabited outpost. "This vessel's purpose suits me," Lyra said, examining the cluttered but functional ship with interest. "Unregistered, independent, unlikely to attract attention." "We attract plenty of attention," Dmitri countered, "just not the official kind." Lyra's silver eyes seemed to glow slightly brighter. The unofficial kind may be preferable at present. Over the next 3 days, Lyra recovered her strength. She spoke little of herself or why she had been pursued, despite Nikolai's occasional probing questions. Instead, she showed a keen interest in human culture, technology, and especially their music, which seemed to fascinate her. On the 4th day, as they approached Junction Station, Lyra appeared at the door to Nikolai's private quarters, carrying a small object wrapped in a shimmering cloth. "Captain Volkov," she said, her melodic voice softer than usual. "You have shown kindness without demanding explanation. This is rare." Nikolai set down the star chart he'd been studying. "In my experience, people running from something usually have good reason. Your business is your own. My business may soon become yours." She unwrapped the cloth, revealing a box about the size of her palm. It appeared to be made of the same liquid-like metal as her ship, with symbols etched into its surface that shifted and changed as they watched. "This contains something of immense value," she said, holding it out to him. "Not currency, but knowledge. Information that could change the balance of power in this sector of space." Nikolai looked from the box to her face. "And you're giving it to me?" "For safekeeping," Lyra corrected. "I cannot risk carrying it any longer. Those who pursue me can sense its presence when it's in my possession." "What exactly is inside?" Her silver eyes locked with his. "Promise me you'll open it alone," she whispered, placing the box in his hands. "Only when no others are present. What it contains is meant for a single mind at first, too many, and the connection becomes unstable." Before Nikolai could ask more questions, the ship's proximity alarm blared. Zara's voice came over the intercom, "Captain. Unidentified vessel just dropped out of hyperspace, heading straight for us. Not responding to hails." Lyra's expression tightened. "They've found me sooner than expected." "Who are they?" Nikolai demanded, tucking the box into his jacket. "The overseers," she said, moving swiftly toward the bridge. "They control access to all advanced technology in my civilization. What I've taken threatens their authority." On the bridge, Zara was already executing evasive maneuvers. The pursuing ship was sleek and predatory, its hull shimmering with the same liquid metal appearance as Lyra's vessel, but darker, with red energy signatures pulsing along its length. "They're charging weapons," Dmitri reported, his thick fingers flying over the defense controls. "Junction Station is still 20 minutes out at full burn," Zara added. Lyra stepped forward, placing her hands on the navigation console. Before anyone could stop her, the console lit up with new symbols, responding to her touch. "What are you doing?" Nikolai moved to pull her away, but stopped when he saw their ship's energy signature beginning to change on the monitors. "Masking your emissions pattern," she explained, her silver eyes reflecting the console lights. "Temporarily. It will buy you time to reach the station." "Us," Nikolai corrected. "Buy us time." Lyra turned to face him, a sad smile on her face. "I must go. My presence endangers you, and the box must reach safety." She glanced at his jacket where he had hidden it. "Remember your promise, Captain. Open it alone." "Wait, you can't just." But Lyra was already moving toward the airlock. Before any of them could stop her, she had activated the emergency launch sequence for the ship's small auxiliary craft. "She's taking the scout vessel," Zara exclaimed. On the screen, they watched as the tiny craft separated from the Nomad's fortune and accelerated rapidly away, drawing the attention of the pursuing ship. The larger vessel immediately changed course, following Lyra. "She's drawing them off," Dmitri said quietly. Nikolai stood, frozen, watching as both ships disappeared into the darkness of space. His hand moved to his jacket, feeling the strange box through the fabric. It seemed to pulse faintly, almost like a heartbeat. "Set course for Junction Station," he ordered finally. "Maximum speed." Later, alone in his quarters, Nikolai placed the box on his desk and stared at it. The symbols on its surface continued to shift and change, as if alive. Lyra's words echoed in his mind, "Promise me you'll open it alone." He reached for the box, then hesitated. What had she gotten him involved in? Who were these overseers she feared? And most importantly, what was inside this mysterious container that was worth risking her life to protect? His comm unit beeped. "Captain," came Zara's voice. "Station security is requesting our manifest for inspection upon arrival." "Standard procedure," he replied, not taking his eyes off the box. "Send the usual list." As the comm clicked off, Nikolai made his decision. Junction Station would be crawling with people who might recognize unusual technology. Whatever this box contained, it would have to wait until he found a truly private moment, somewhere far from prying eyes and unexpected visitors. He wrapped the box carefully in the shimmering cloth Lyra had provided and locked it in his personal safe. Whatever secrets it held, he intended to keep his promise. He would open it alone, and then he would find Lyra again, wherever she had disappeared to. Because if there was one thing Nikolai Volkov had learned in 20 years of salvage operations, it was that valuable things had a way of bringing trouble. And judging by how desperately Lyra had fled with those overseers in pursuit, this small box might bring more trouble than he had ever known. Revelations and consequences. Junction Station loomed before the Nomad's fortune like a massive metallic spider, its 8 docking arms extending from a central hub that pulsed with the light of thousands of windows. Nikolai guided his ship toward their assigned berth, his mind still preoccupied with the mysterious box secured in his quarters. "Docking procedure initiated," Zara announced, her fingers dancing across the navigation console. "Station authority has cleared our manifest." Standard contraband scan waved. She glanced back at Nikolai with a raised eyebrow. "Someone pulled strings for us." "I didn't call in any favors," Nikolai replied, frowning. Dmitri looked up from his engineering station. "Maybe our silver-eyed friend has allies here." The thought had occurred to Nikolai as well. As they completed docking procedures, he made a decision. "Zara, handle the resupply. Dmitri, those stabilizers need parts, see what you can find. I have personal business to attend to." Both crew members exchanged knowing looks but asked no questions. Years working the outer rim had taught them all the value of discretion. Nikolai waited until they had disembarked before retrieving the box from his safe. It felt heavier somehow, the symbols on its surface moving more rapidly as if agitated. He wrapped it carefully in the cloth Lyra had provided and tucked it inside his jacket. Instead of heading to the station's bustling central concourse, Nikolai made his way to the lower levels where temporary quarters could be rented with minimal documentation. Using an old alias, he secured a small room in a dimly lit corridor far from the station's security sensors. The room was sparse, a bunk, a desk, and a small washroom. Nikolai engaged all privacy protocols, disabling the room's communication systems and sealing the door with additional locks from his personal kit. Only then did he remove the box and place it on the desk. "All right," he muttered to himself. "Let's see what was worth disappearing for." As he unwrapped the cloth, the box seemed to respond to his touch, the symbols glowing more intensely. Nikolai examined it carefully, finding no visible seam or opening mechanism. He ran his fingers along its surface, feeling the symbols shift beneath his touch like living things. On impulse, he whispered, "Lyra." The box trembled. A seam appeared along its top edge, glowing with soft blue light. Slowly, the box opened itself, unfolding like a mechanical flower in bloom. Inside was a crystal, or something crystal-like, that levitated slightly above the bottom of the box. It pulsed with an inner light that shifted between silver, like Lyra's eyes, Nikolai realized, and a deep, cosmic blue. As he stared at it, mesmerized, the crystal rose higher. A voice spoke directly into his mind, not Lyra's, but something older, deeper, with harmonics that made his teeth ache. Connection initiated. Calibrating to human neural patterns. Synchronization at 12%. Nikolai jerked backward, nearly toppling his chair. What the hell? Vocal response unnecessary. Thought patterns sufficient for communication. He steadied himself, forcing his racing heart to slow. What are you? He thought deliberately. I am the Nexus Key. Repository of collective knowledge from the Luminar civilization. I contain star maps, technological schematics, cultural artifacts, and historical records spanning 17,000 standard cycles. Why did Lyra give you to me? The crystal pulsed more rapidly. Host Lyra is last keeper of the Luminar. The overseers seek to restrict knowledge, maintain control over remaining technologies. Host Lyra selected you based on compatibility metrics and probability of survival. A flood of images suddenly washed through Nikolai's mind, glimpses of a civilization with architecture that defied physics, technology that seemed to blend seamlessly with organic matter, and beings like Lyra but with variations in their iridescent skin and silvery eyes. Synchronization at 27%, the voice continued. Establishing neural pathway to host Lyra. Wait, you can connect to her? Nikolai asked aloud, forgetting the instruction to think his responses. Where is she? Instead of answering, the crystal flared brightly. Pain lanced through Nikolai's head as new information poured in, not just data this time, but emotions, sensations. He was suddenly seeing through different eyes, feeling the cold metal of restraints against wrists that weren't his. Lyra was alive. Captured, but alive. Through her eyes, he saw a sterile chamber with walls of the same liquid metal as her ship. 3 figures stood before her, taller than Lyra, their silver eyes darker and their features more angular. They wore robes that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The Nexus Key must be recovered, one was saying, its voice carrying the same harmonic quality as Lyra's but colder, harsher. Tell us where you've hidden it, last keeper, and your punishment will be merciful. Nikolai felt Lyra's defiance as if it were his own. The key is beyond your reach now, Overseer the Los. Soon it will share its knowledge freely, as our ancestors intended. The vision abruptly cut off as Nikolai gasped, doubling over. The crystal returned to its gentle hovering within the box, its pulsing more subdued. Connection unstable, the voice explained. Host Lyra is being subjected to neural suppression. They're torturing her, Nikolai growled. Where is she being held? Overseer vessel designation, Eternal Vigilance. Currently in orbit around gas giant in nearby Cygnus system. Nikolai's mind raced. The Cygnus system was less than a day's journey at full burn. But what could he possibly do against these overseers? His salvage vessel wasn't equipped for combat, and he had no idea what kind of defenses their ship might have. As if sensing his thoughts, the crystal pulsed again. Synchronization at 35%. Tactical schematics for overseer vessels available. Vulnerability analysis initiating. More information flooded Nikolai's mind, detailed layouts of ships like the one pursuing Lyra, their weapons systems, shield configurations, and most importantly, their weaknesses. The overseers restrict access to advanced technology, but their own vessels rely on outdated security protocols, the voice explained. A targeted electromagnetic pulse at specific frequencies would temporarily disable their systems. Nikolai sat back, his head throbbing from the data transfer. He needed time to process all this information, to formulate a plan. But time was something Lyra might not have. A sudden pounding at the door jolted him from his thoughts. Captain Volkov, called a voice he didn't recognize. Station security. Open up. Nikolai quickly closed the box, which folded itself back into a seamless cube. He wrapped it in a cloth and slipped it back inside his jacket. They have found you, the voice in his mind warned. Overseer agents are embedded in Junction Station security forces. Perfect, Nikolai muttered. He glanced around the small room, spotting a maintenance hatch in the ceiling, standard in all Junction Station quarters for emergency repairs. The pounding came again, more insistent. Final warning, Volkov. Open this door or we're coming in. Nikolai sprang into action, pushing the desk beneath the hatch and climbing up. As he heard the security override beginning to disengage his locks, he pulled himself into the narrow maintenance tunnel above. Crawling through the dusty passageway, Nikolai tapped his wrist communicator. Dmitri, Zara, Emergency Protocol 7. Meet at the backup location. Emergency Protocol 7 meant abandon ship and scatter, something they'd only had to do twice in all their years together. The backup location was a seedy bar in Junction Station's lowest level, a place where questions weren't asked and security sensors mysteriously malfunctioned. As he navigated the maze of maintenance tunnels, Nikolai felt the box pulse against his chest. The voice returned, quieter now. Host Lyra's connection is weakening. The overseers will extract her knowledge of your identity soon. Then we'll have to move fast, Nikolai replied, no longer bothering to think his responses. He was talking to an alien artifact while crawling through filthy maintenance tunnels to escape shadowy pursuers. Verbal peculiarities seemed the least of his concerns. He emerged from the tunnels 3 levels down, in a storage area used by maintenance crews. Checking that no one was around, he dusted himself off and adopted a casual stride toward the lower levels. The bar, ironically named The Last Resort, was dimly lit and half-empty when he arrived. Dmitri was already there, nursing a glass of something that glowed faintly purple. Zara arrived minutes later, her expression grim. They've impounded the ship, she reported without preamble. Official reason, suspected smuggling of restricted technology. Dmitri grunted. That was fast. Someone has serious pull. The overseers, Nikolai explained, keeping his voice low. They're after something Lyra gave me for safekeeping. The box, Zara guessed. When Nikolai raised an eyebrow, she shrugged. Not my first salvage operation, Captain. Nikolai quickly explained what he'd learned, about the Nexus Key, the Luminar civilization, and Lyra's capture. He omitted the part about the voice in his head and the neural connection, deciding that might be a bit too much even for his tolerant crew. So what's the plan? Dmitri asked, draining his drink. Because if you're thinking what I think you're thinking, it's the worst idea you've had since that job on Proxima 3. We nearly died on Proxima 3, Zara pointed out. Exactly. Nikolai leaned forward. We need a ship. Something fast, with minimal registration flags. A slow smile spread across Zara's face. I might know someone who owes me a favor. 3 hours later, they were aboard the Swift Retribution, a modified courier vessel with suspicious weapon mounts that its owner, an old acquaintance of Zara's, insisted were decorative. The ship was small but fast, with enough stealth capabilities to avoid standard detection systems. As they prepared to depart Junction Station through one of its less monitored service exits, Nikolai felt the box pulse again. This time, when the voice spoke in his mind, it was weaker, strained. Host Lyra has revealed your identity. Overseer vessels changing course. Estimated interception time, 4 hours. Nikolai relayed this to his crew. Dmitri cursed colorfully in his native tongue, while Zara simply adjusted their course calculations. If we push the engines to maximum, she said, we can reach the Cygnus system in 3 hours. But that doesn't leave us much margin for error. And once we get there, Dmitri added, what exactly is the plan? We can't exactly knock on their door and ask politely for the alien lady back. Nikolai tapped his temple. The key has provided me with tactical information. Their ships have vulnerabilities, specifically to targeted electromagnetic pulses. Which we don't have the equipment to generate, Dmitri pointed out. No, Nikolai agreed with a grim smile. But we have something better, a maintenance engineer who once rewired an entire mining facility's power grid with nothing but salvaged parts and spite. Dmitri's bushy eyebrows rose, then a slow, dangerous smile spread across his face. I'll need components. And about 2 hours of uninterrupted work. As the Swift Retribution accelerated away from Junction Station, Nikolai felt a strange mix of fear and determination settle over him. By all rational metrics, they were embarking on a suicide mission, 3 salvage operators against an advanced alien civilization's enforcement arm. But then again, he'd never been particularly rational when it came to keeping his promises. And he had promised Lyra he would protect the box, which now meant protecting her as well. The crystal pulsed against his chest one more time, and he could have sworn he felt something like gratitude emanating from it. Perhaps from Lyra herself, through whatever connection they now shared. "Hold on," he whispered, unsure if she could hear him. "We're coming for you." As the stars stretched into streaks around their small vessel, Nikolai Volkov, salvage operator, occasional smuggler, and now unwitting guardian of an ancient alien civilization's knowledge, prepared himself for the greatest salvage operation of his life. Not for profit or glory, but for a silver-eyed woman who had whispered, "Promise me you'll open it alone," and then disappeared. Some promises, he was discovering, reached farther than he could have ever imagined.